So, Bertha, tell everyone what is Rise Products and why did you start the company?
Sure. Rise is a food tech company, and what we do is that we take organic byproducts and convert it into ingredients. So we're starting with the beer industry. We go to our local breweries in New York City, so in Brooklyn, Queens mainly. We collect the main byproduct, something called Spain grain. It's just malted barley that has been boiled and crushed. And we have a proprietary technology, it's a patent pending technology that allows us to dehydrate this material and convert it into a flour that's like super nutritious, it's sustainable, and it has like amazing flavor. So that's what we do. Like we take byproducts and convert it into something that has value. And the reason that we started Rise is that so we all met at NYU, and we all believe in this concept called industrial symbiosis. Industrial symbiosis means how the byproduct of a company can become the raw material of another company. It's a concept that has been around since the 60s, and it's based about how environment behaves. Like there's nothing that is like waste really in the environment. There's something always useful, but it has been in a theoretical concept, and we wanted to make it in a practical way. So we met at NYU because there was a challenge from NYU. How can we make our cities better? And we were like thinking, okay, how can we make this concept? How can we put it in reality? How can we kind of foster industrial symbiosis? And we tried different things. We wanted to make an impact in our city, in the city that we are living, New York City. And we were looking what were the different companies that were in New York City. We saw like textiles. We were also looking at food companies, where we can start. And then we realized that there was like so many of these microbreweries, craft breweries, and that the outlet, and that's where we learned about Spain grain, and that's where also we learned that because we are in a city, most of the byproducts goes to the landfill, and that's when we kind of like started. That's kind of like how we started with Rise.
Interesting. So is it all flour currently that you're making, or are there any plans for you to upcycle brewed grains into any other type of product?
Sure. Good question. So our process currently we're doing a couple things. One is we're making this flour that's very nutritious, this high nutritious. And we are also making grain. So because some companies like to work with flour, and we have two types, lights and darks. Lights come from IPAs, ales, and pilsners, and darks come from stouts and porters. But other companies also like to work on with the dehydrated grain because they like the texture and the flavor that it gives too. So that's currently we're just working with the brewery company. However, our process also works with other industries. It works also with the industry of the soy mill, the industry of the juice, industry of wine. So any byproduct from these different industries, we can also work. We have tried it in our lab, so we know that the process works. We haven't iterated enough right now for a commercialized version. We're also doing with the flour mixes and products out of the mixes, like baking mixes. Yeah, this is our new baking mix. So this is one of the things that we realize is that most of our consumers we're working with B2B. So most of baker, chef, and food manufacturers, they like to work with the flour. However, we're also trying to see how we can also communicate and integrate to the individuals, the consumers. And many of them, they don't cook. So if they see a flour, it's hard for them to relate. They like the idea, but they tell us I just don't bake. So that's why we are creating different kind of mixes. This is our first mix, which is a brownie mix. So the only thing that they have to add is eggs and butter.
Oh,
and that's
easy.
something like super easy that anybody can do it. So then you don't have to look for whatever sugar, look for salt or chips or whatever you need. Here you only have to add 2 things and then you have your brownie.
Oh, perfect. So, talk to me about the business structure and how you started. So you have five partners. You're all NYU engineers, or most of you.
We are a mix. So when there was this competition at NYU, it was really nice. It was connecting different schools. So I come from the engineering school. My background is mechanical engineering, and I was at that time doing my PhD in technology management and innovation. Then my other co-founder, Jessica, her background, she's math, but she was doing her master at that time in risk management from the School of Continuing Education. So actually we were not even in the same campus. I was in Brooklyn, she was in Manhattan. So I never met Jessica. It's funny because we're both from Ecuador. We never met in Ecuador. We never met in New York. Where we met, so from this competition, the prize was a workshop in Shanghai, and that's where we met. We met in Shanghai. So yeah, she was my first co-founder. I also have other co-founders. Remington, he was also from the same school as Jessica, also met in Shanghai. And then Ashwin, which is also from the engineering school. Ashwin was seated right across me, so that was an easy person to meet. And then Lev, who is from Courant, which is the math institute of, and we met him through a mentor from the Shanghai workshop. So it was interesting because if it wasn't for this challenge, I would probably haven't met more than half of my co-founders.
Wow. So how did you decide to all kind of join forces together, and how did the business come about? Did you all put in a certain amount of money? Did some of you put in money? And if you're all the same age, you might all have student loans at the same time. So how did that happen?
That's a good question. So, well, we started at this time, but when it just started, we were like, how can we foster industrial symbiosis? So it was kind of like a super big idea, and we didn't even know where to start. So at that time, it was more, we were all drawn by the concept of industrial symbiosis, because we all believe that waste exists because we haven't found the right application for it yet, and we wanted to find these applications. Because at the time when we started, we were students. So all of us were studying, doing their masters or PhDs, and we're working on this kind of as a side project. So it was something that, because we were doing on the side, we were just putting a little bit of our time to see, how to make this kind of huge thing into something more digestible. We did have a couple more co-founders at the beginning, but then after a while it wasn't something that they didn't want to put their time, so they just left the company. And then initially we were thinking of being a marketplace for buying and selling industrial byproducts. What we realized is that there's no infrastructure for converting organic byproducts into ingredients. So when we have that pivot of being a flour company, that's when we're say, okay, whomever wants to be part of this, now this is gonna be something super serious. It's not a side project anymore. That's where some people stay and some people left the company.
Okay, so that's kind of what really separated.
Yeah, that's what it separated. And we never thought about being the food business. As I told you, we were looking on being on the. We always wanted to convert byproducts or waste into something useful. We didn't know it was gonna be in the food. actually the reason we converted into food was, and that's why we think of us as food tech more than food company, was that we took the spent grain, this byproduct from the beer, and with Jessica and Ashwin we started experimenting with it. So we made soaps, we make construction material, we make it into papers, we make it into enzyme, and we start also eating it, and we make it into pet treats. And we started eating it and trying different things. And what it has more value because of the nutrition of it was making it into food. And then it was easier for us because it was a technical challenge. And as math or engineers, we love technical challenges because those are really not easy, but it's something that we like to have, like technical things. So the technical challenge was more like how we can preserve this in a way that will last longer, because the spent grain only lasts 6 to 8 hours. So how we can preserve this material to last a significant amount of time in order for other people to make it, to have an impact and other people can use it. So then and then what we understand is that many people use the flour format. It's a format that you give it to a chef or to a baker or to a food manufacturer, and they know how to mix ingredients. So that's what when we were more putting our engineers and math brains to solve this.
Interesting. So how did you all get the business off the ground in terms of funding? You had to all survive and live and get paid. So, did you come in with loans, or did you come in with crowdfunding?
So yeah, that's a good question. So initially when we were kind of a side project, it was more of us going to this conference and trying to see how people react to our ideas. So at that time it was more like going to a conference that cost $25 or $30. So it was more of our own pocket, buying the ticket. So what happened was that in 2016 I finished my PhD, but at the same time we have applied to something called Green Grant, which is a grant that NYU gives to students or professors or alumni that are working on sustainability projects. So we applied to that grant, and we got $10,000, I believe. So by that time I was just finished my PhD. I just got the PhD. I also, to be honest, I was a little bit I don't want to write another paper anymore for a long time. So that's why when we kind of start taking it more seriously, okay, what can we do with that? Because we have some grant money, and I wanted to see if this leads to something. Will there be something out of the story of industrial symbiosis? At that time, we were not a flour company. We just knew that we wanted to disrupt the beer industry at that time. So after we started trying all these things, and because we have a little bit of money from NYU, we applied to an accelerator called FoodX, which is an accelerator for food companies. Because we also, when we have applied, we already have the first the first flour prototype. We put together a dinner. We found a chef that helped us put 7-course dinner, and we invite people to our dinner party. We thought that I think probably 20-25 people reserved. We thought okay, maybe not everybody's gonna come. The dinner was a success. 50 people came, more people than we have expected. And we also invited to the people that were selecting in FoodX. And because they also came to the dinner, they really liked what we were doing. So they put money. That was our first they put $50,000 in us. So that was our first bigger amount of funding.
So 50 people put in 50,000?
No. FoodX put $50,000.
Oh, I see.
FoodX, which was one of the people that was invited to our dinner. So they put the first $50,000.
So that got you on the map.
And that got us in the map to do a little bit more.
Right.
You know?
Oh, great.
And then after we finished FoodX, couple months after, we were accepted in an accelerator from the Vatican called Laudato Si. So we are one of the few companies that have the Pope in the cap table. No, I'm kidding. The Pope is not putting money, but it's part of the Vatican. The Pope is very interesting on like environment and social responsibility. So it's one of the. So it's from this like encyclical that this accelerator was founded. So they put another $100,000 in us. So that's where we got kind of like our initial investment, our seed funding, and that has allowed us like to also to put a couple people in the team to have a little bit of money so we can survive.
Right.
You know, but at the same time it has allowed us, like for instance, like initially we were like doing many things, like the first few months after my PhD, my house became our little lab, you know. So my house was with little machines all over, but then it allowed us also to to go to different commercial kitchens and try different type of equipment. And then we also went to we founded better commercial kitchens, and like even to being able to understand how can we reduce the price of production, because initially the cost of production was like something like $50 per pound. Now it's costing us under $10 per pound. It's still expensive, but it has reduced significantly since the moment we're starting. And now we are looking for other ways where we can take the production price under $2. So it has helped us iterate. The idea has helped us allow to work with more people, increase the demand, increase the supply, so increase production. So that has been very helpful. Plus, the people from these two accelerators has also, by being part of these two accelerators, we have also met interesting people, not only from the accelerator, but that are associated with these places. Like for instance, from FoodX, we met people from Whole Foods. We met people from Sara Lee. And then from the other one, we met some interesting chefs. So in that way, it has allowed us to have like more access to people that are now working with developing different products or are buying our flour.
Is the production profitable now, or is the fact that you've gotten all the seed money what's kind of running the operation at this point?
It's a mix of the two. So yes, like part of the seed money is helping us to run the operation, and we're like now, it's a term that I just learned yesterday. It's called, we're a sampling cost. That's where we are right now, which means that the cost that we're giving now, it's like the cost for making samples. It's not the final cost, but the sampling cost, the upscale chefs, they can pay that. So we are currently working with a few Michelin star chefs, and they are working with the flour, and they are paying for it in the price that would be profitable for us. But we also want to work with more people, but for those people we have to make the flour more affordable. So that's why we're also currently raising funds. We're currently fundraising, so we can make our product more affordable to more people. Because even though it has super good nutrition, we don't want only like the people that has access to upscale material to have it. We want more people to be able to consume it.
So are you selling to regular retail customers now, or is it selling more wholesaling or commercial buyers?
It's selling. Our main customers are B2B, so business. So bakers, chefs, and small food manufacturers are majority of our customers. We do sell in small boutiques in New York City and online to individuals like yourself. But it's only like a small percentage. I'll say like less than 5%.
Would it be a bag like that size?
So, for instance, this one will be more for a person like yourself, to buy it, and that's why we have created it into a brownie mix, because then it will be easier for you to use it. The flour that we have, it's a little, because it's a novel ingredient, it works a little bit different than a regular flour. So that's why we haven't not too many people use it, but bakers and chefs and food manufacturers, they are using it. It's easy for them to use it. So we're kind of make it easier for a regular consumer like myself, to being able to do something with it. So it's kind of how we're introducing it to the individuals.
And right now, that's about a pound?
So,
what would a pound cost for something to buy?
So, for instance, this is a brownie mix. This costs $8, the brownie mix.
Okay.
We sell one to similar, but just the flour.
Just flour.
For $12.
Okay.
So, yes, you can do more with the flour, but if you don't know how to use the flour,
Right.
probably this is a better option for you.
Does it work the same as normal wheat flour, or is it more like a gluten-free type of a flour,
Yes.
where you have to have a certain knack for using it?
Yeah. So they work a bit the usability is more like, as you said, more as a gluten-free, because barley has less gluten than regular wheat flour. So in some cases, for instance, when you're making a banana bread, it's more like a dense application. You can replace 1-to-1. If you are making more like a croissant, then it's more a 4-to-1 kind of application. So it depends what you are making. We're also developing these recipes. Many of our partners, actually chefs, they are making recipes themselves, and they're sharing with us. So we can also tell the consumers. I even the chef, other chefs, we recommend you that if you're doing this type, if you're doing pasta, don't use more than 10%, or if you're doing bread, use a maximum of 40%,
So these are just chefs who believe in your cause, who are just helping you. They're not part of the company, right?
No, they're not part of the company. They're just helping us to.
Great.
Yeah.
So I see that consulting is part of your offering too. How does that work? Do companies find you and reach out to you, or do you find them and say, hey, our process would be great for you?
So what is interesting? So consulting was something we were not even thinking about having. But many breweries and many distilleries and many industries that have been thinking, have been thinking about their byproducts, they have seen us as the people that they have reached. So it wasn't part of our initial offering from the beginning, but because more and more breweries, distilleries, and different type of food manufacturers, they have reached to us, we thought, okay, let's make this offering. So what we do is we go to their facility and we check, there's different ways that you can do the consulting. So we see things what's the capacity that they are having. What things do they want to accomplish? Because not for everybody a flour will be the right format that they want to have. So for instance, this company was a tiny brewery and they want to make some CPGs. So we advised them that they shouldn't dehydrate it to a flour. They should have another type of format. So we see each company and we tell them, okay, this is the format that we recommend that you should have. And then, we help them with installation, with finding machines. In some cases, we even tell them, these are the types. In a few cases, we even have finding them partners for them to make them, to help them make the materials. In other cases, we have recommend them clients, but that's what we do. So, we're not saying everybody has to have the same. They have to make it into a flour, because in some cases that might not be the best solution for them. But yeah, it happens because the market asks for the consulting piece. We were not even thinking about that.
Right. So what percentage of your business comes from the flour versus the consulting?
Well, consulting is something that is just brand new.
Oh, okay.
So it's
very small.
It's very small because
Okay.
it just started. I think 2 weeks ago we didn't have that.
So does Rise just focus on edible waste, or do you look at things that are inedible as well?
So for the moment we're just focusing on edible waste, edible byproducts, let's call it. There's so many things that are out there. So one of the things that when we started, we were thinking like, where can we have more impact? And we realized that there's a lot of infrastructure for metal, for paper, for cardboard, plastic. So we didn't want to focus on something that people were already doing, because then we wouldn't have that much of an impact. Probably would have been easier, but so many people already have solutions for that. That's why we're focusing on the organic byproducts, because there's not too many people doing that.
And your website talks about, the next ideas coming down the pike, things like, juice waste and coffee waste and things like that. Would those also be turned into flour, or do you have an idea what that might end up resulting in?
So they will all be ingredients. In some cases, for instance, in the coffee will be more like an ingredient for cosmetics.
Oh, okay.
Because coffee has a very similar physical and chemical characteristics as the microbeads for the cosmetic industry. But the difference, the microbeads from cosmetic industries are plastic. So when they go to the ocean, after a while they just like contaminate, but a coffee will disintegrate. So those are like the coffee applications. Juices, I think there's food applications, but there's also skincare applications, but I believe we'll be most into the food applications. Actually, sometimes like the food applications and the skincare applications go hand to hand, because people are also using things that you can eat as part of your skincare solution.
Okay.
So depending where you are, like what type of byproduct, it will have a different application, but most likely will be between food and skincare or cosmetic.
Okay. And one of your partners, I guess on your website, was describing how this is really more of an urban problem of trying to attack the waste, because out on the farms they just feed it to the animals and they reuse it, and there's a lot less waste there. Do you also see it as a suburban problem too, or are the suburbs handling it a little bit better than the cities are?
I think that's a good question. I think it's most about like how far you are. We don't want to disturb, like there's like beautiful connections between farmers and industries, and we don't want to displace the farmers of this like environment. Like if there's already like these things in place, we don't want to be like, hey, we're paying more. Like we don't want to give, like if there's already a symbiosis somehow, we don't want to replace that. It's just that in urban environments there's not that type of symbiosis. I think in suburban places probably will be kind of a mixing that probably they might have a little bit more connections with the farmers, but maybe I think there will be like some opportunities in suburban environments. Maybe we haven't explored enough yet to give you a concrete answer, but I think it's something that we might study.
Okay. And what are your plans for expansion? Are you planning to go into other cities at this point?
Good question. So we're currently, our first city is gonna be New York City. Couple things. One of the biggest hubs for micro and craft breweries is the New York metropolitan area. Actually, I think it's the biggest. There's like something like 140 something microbreweries in New York and the surroundings. And also like New York is where like you build brand, when you like people in New York take bigger risks, like they try novel ingredients. So that's why we're staying here in New York City initially. But the second city that we might probably go is like in the middle of America. We're still thinking of between 3 cities, because that's where like food it's also like produced. Like the big companies like Kellogg's or Nestle, they're all situated around that part.
Right.
So that's that's the second area that will be going.
Okay. And have you earned the attention of state or local governments for collaboration or government contracts, since there seems to be such a societal benefit to what you're doing?
We have talked with a few people from the state of New York. I don't want to say the name because I don't want to jinx the relationship.
Yeah, no.
But we might have some collaborations with them. I'll tell you more when it happens.
Okay.
So yeah, that's mainly from the state, and we are also thinking. We're also working with a few people from Eatisserie.
From where?
Eatisserie is from the. I don't remember what's Eatisserie stands for.
Economic Corporation.
Economic Development Corporation. It's from the city.
So how do you forecast the amount of flour that you'll be able to sell? Because it's one thing to collect it all from the
Sure.
brewery, but then if it wastes on your shelf, it's just...
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So one of the things that we are working right now is we're working with 4 big food companies, and they are testing our product. Most of them they're testing in the grain format. And one of the things that they are, the amount that they're requiring is like kind of like tons per month. So actually we don't have even the capacity to meet their demand. So and one of the things that, we're all engineers or math, or we have one person from business. None of our sales we have make it, like knocking on doors. It's more happening more organic, so like from media like you or other source of publicity or by being part of FoodX. So these people have been, all these large corporations, they have approached us. So, and they really like it. They like that the nutrition is super, like it's amazing. It's 12 times the fiber, 2 times the protein, 1/3 of the carbs of traditional flour. They like the taste, they like the flavors, they like the texture, they like the sustainability story. So we're hitting all the points in the big food companies, but we don't have the production capacity right now. So one of the first things that we'll be doing for meeting the demand is working with these companies. But at the same time we also have a sales team that will be more aggressive, that the way we're doing more like, emailing to one chef or another chef. And then we can also meet those demands, because it's a flour, but at the same time it has all it's also like a superfood because of like the amount of nutrition it has. So there's also it's not only the flour market, it's like the superfood market that we're addressing right now.
Interesting. So you are planning to increase capacity and a sales force too at this point?
We're fundraising for that, to increase capacity and for sales force. That's one of the 2 things that we're fundraising.